Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special Jackie K. Cooper show. I say it's very special because I couldn't be more thrilled. Deborah Roberts, who is born and bred in Perry, Georgia, and now lives in New York. She was in town recently with her husband, Al Roker, and they agreed to sit down with me for an interview, which is going to be our show tonight. And I am so grateful to them for doing this. They were so personable. They had a lot of things on their schedule that day, and yet they were nice enough to give me some time to talk to them about their careers, about their marriage, raising kids in New York, the whole thing. Plus, they have a new book out called Been There, Done That, which is a he said, she said type of version of stories about their marriage. And I recommend that you get the book, and read it. It gives you such insight into the lives of these two A-list celebrities. So without any further ado, we're going to move right into the interview. This is my chance to sit down and talk with Deborah Roberts and Al Roker, authors of Been There, Done That. I can't believe this. We are sitting here with Deborah Roberts, Perry's own Deborah Roberts, and some guy who I hear has a great career with weather on another network.
Give or take.
Yeah, but you're doing correspondent for 2020. You're doing Good Morning America. You're doing The View. You're doing Nightline. I'm telling you.
I know.
And you're doing the Weather Channel, the Today Show. How do y'all even breathe?
Well, today we're breathing kind of fast because we just got here from, I went to the University of Georgia to speak last night, my alma mater. Al was coming in from New York, so, sometimes we're running and gunning, but you know what? It's a busy life, but it's an enjoyable life, and we find time.
It's the normal stuff. I mean, I actually, this is really the first time I'm seeing you conscious because I
knock him out unconscious all the time.
I took Leela last week for a college tour out west, and then I had a shoot for the Today Show in the Sequoia National Forest, and Leela came with me. We got back early Friday morning. I left before Deborah woke up.
I haven't seen him in a week.
And she came down here, so this was really the first time I've seen.
Hello, goodbye,
you
hello.
Together.
I'm a uniter.
But it's the same. It's the same as every family that's got a two-career family.
Absolutely.
So we're running around, but you try to make it work.
We're here for Deborah to come home to Perry and for you to come with her, and we're so glad of that. But we also are here to talk about your book, Been There, Done That. This is a story about your marriage, but it's really a story about your lives.
That's right.
And your children and everything.
People try to pin it in one category. They say, well, this is a book about marriage, or this is a book about couples. It's not. It's really about, to me, it's about life. It's about what we've lived and what we've learned in life. I talk about being a career a mother, a child of the South, the segregated South.
Right.
Mrs. Dorothy Hardy, my influential sixth grade English teacher. And Al talks about his upbringing. So it's really kind of about our lives and how our upbringing informs who we are.
And one of the most poignant parts of the book to me is your story about your friend who died who died much too young. And the way you describe that. So that's not about the marriage. That's about life and friendships.
Right.
And then you both talk about your relationships with your parents that are so important. But I wanted to ask, here you are, y'all have both achieved huge success. Why do you think, why you? Why
not?
Why not?
Why not? That's a great answer, Al. That's really good.
And that's a great way to describe who we are, because I would say, well, I feel sort of guilty in some ways. I'm so blessed. Why me? And Al would say, why not?
Yeah, I mean, and I think we talk about this in the book. One of the things that has always impressed me about Deborah was that, she comes from humble beginnings. And one of the things she talks about is that, we have friends in New York whose parents were much more accomplished. Like my dad was a bus driver. My mom was a nursing aide when she worked. Otherwise, she stayed at home. Deborah's mom, worked in other people's homes. Her dad was a carpet layer. And yet they made sure their kids all had the opportunity to go to college and
Which
do,
wasn't an easy thing.
which wasn't an easy thing. And her story to me is like that is it's like a Southern version of Horatio Alger. I mean, she knew that what she wanted and got it and worked at it thanks to the support of her family and the people, and that's a much better story than people who some of the people we know who come from privileged backgrounds and achieve some success.
But they have a leg up.
But they
to
have
start.
a leg up, and that to me is everything that there is about America, and that's her story, and I've always marveled at it.
Well, he's made me own my story, I think, in a bigger way than I ever
You
did.
ought to own your story.
I know, but you know what? When you grow up in small town Perry, Georgia, and as Al said, from humble beginnings, a family of 9 children. My parents didn't graduate from high school, either one of them. And you wind up in New York City, where people went to Princeton and Harvard, and these really accomplished people. You can feel a little insecure. And I probably didn't talk.
By the way, UGA is not anything to sneeze
I
at.
know, that's true. That is true. And so I didn't
The
really...
School of Journalism.
That's exactly
My
right.
son
As
went
Al
there.
said, the Princeton of the South.
Yeah.
And so I didn't talk a lot about my background. I guess I just felt sort of humbled by it. Not embarrassed, but I just felt like, well, my story's not that interesting. And Al said to me, "Are you kidding me? Your story is the American story. You didn't grow up with a lot, but you took what you had and what your parents gave you, and you made something of it."
But
and now I do
whenever
celebrate
you and
it.
I have talked, I have said, I want people to know you, because to me, you are such an inspiration for people to say, I can do it too.
Well, that's why I wanted to write the book, because I just thought, even though Al has written multiple books, and he's written cookbooks and a memoir and a story that's
mystery.
dedicated, a mystery, I wanted to talk about where I came from, who I am, because when I go out on the stump doing speeches, I talk a lot about that, and then people really, really respond to it. And I thought, I want to put it out there. I want to talk about who I am and where I came from. And if I inspire, great. And if I just amuse you or entertain you, that's good too.
But I do think that inspiration is there, because I think people can look and say, this is one of our own. This is one of our own.
And I can do this also.
Yeah. But how did the book come together? You said, you had the idea for a book. I cannot imagine writing with anybody else, and much less writing with my wife.
That's what he was
I
worried about.
I didn't want to write the book.
I would have been kicking and screaming.
I had no desire to write the book, and because I knew look, about a month ago we were trying to send a text to a mutual friend, and we got into a fight.
A disagreement.
No, it was a fight.
That's
It was
a
a full out.
disagreement
It was
about
a
the
full out. What are you doing?
grammar.
Blah, 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 blah. And I thought, and I said, this is a miracle that we were. And you know how we did it? We were never in the same room at the same time.
I know, I heard you say that, but...
Was I banished from the room?
No,
We were
no,
never in the
no,
room
I
at the
didn't.
same time.
Did you read each other before
No,
you
she
wrote?
didn't even read my part until
Because it
she
sounds
didn't
like-
read my part till the book was published.
I did. I read,
you
I
did
read
not.
some of
no,
his.
No,
I
no,
read
you
some.
did not tell the truth.
I did
You
read a
didn't
few.
read the whole
I'm
part.
almost
I
scared
hope
of
she
his
didn't say,
chapters.
I'm only reading the good parts.
Well,
and
that's
and
I
reading
didn't say
hers.
it.
I'm always scared of what he's going to say. I never.
But
I
y'all
was
were so honest.
Well, I was so honest and so earnest, and I wanted to put some stuff
He
out
was
there.
too.
And Al was too. But Al, has a humorous take on things, and you never know what he's going to say. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing right now, because once we arrived at this idea of his story, my story, his story, my story, then we just decided, okay, well, I'll sit down and write whenever I can, and he'll write when he can.
But in this unique, I've never seen a book by a couple
Yeah.
about their marriage. I don't know.
Well, we had a great co-writer, this woman Laura Morton, who helped kind of edit the and make it a little more cohesive. But it made it a lot easier, because Deborah could write what she wrote, I wrote what I wrote, and
Well, now, did she write the ones that were about the two of you? There's
no,
certain...
those were
We kind of did those together.
we did that together.
Okay.
But those were more just sort of dictation. We talked to Laura about it, and then she took it down and helped us put it together. So we didn't have to sit together at the computer and compile it. We just told our story together. And there's the one about the driving. It incorporates the kids
Right.
too, because we're talking
Right.
about how I love to drive, and I drive a little faster than Al does, and the kids' voices are in there too. So
Love
you just
that.
get a
I love
slice
that.
of the family.
And I love the fact, that you talk to cab drivers.
I do.
I love that.
I love to talk to cab drivers.
They're not crazy about
Yeah, they are. I mean, I'm not always giving them directions.
They're not crazy about it.
it. Either.
Sometimes I give them direction. Maybe they don't always love that, but I like to just hear what they have to say, because that homespun wisdom can come from the guy who's shining your shoes, or the person who's just cleaning the dishes or whatever, and you wind up talking to somebody, and you will get a little pearl of wisdom about life. And also kind of a check too, to remind you, you know what, come on, life is not that hard.
Well, do you ever get rejected though? Do you try to start a conversation and they say,
Well, sometimes they're talking on their phone.
that makes you feel good?
And I just back off. No, it's usually if I start talking and they say something, we go back and forth and a conversation starts up. But I don't normally hit them up just to talk. Just depends on, you get the vibe.
Yeah.
You get the vibe from the person.
Were there any things that your kids saw the book and said, I wish you hadn't put this in here? Or else did they say, I wish you told about this?
No, we got their permission because we knew that it was a family story.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just our story. We wanted to talk about the kids. And there's a chapter in which we talk about Leela's choice of schools. She's in a private school and she wants to move on to the School of Arts. And I didn't really like that. And I wanted to make sure that she was okay with the fact that we talked about that decision. And she edited it. She gave us her permission. She made notes. She gave us notes on the side.
That is so good.
And she said, well, that wasn't quite accurate. No, we said this and not that. And then at the end, she wanted to know what's her cut. What does she get for the
percentage.
book? What's her percentage of the book?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Percentages she gets to keep living with.
But I do want to say, though, that for a book like that, I did feel like y'all were completely honest.
Well,
That,
if we were going to do it, we had to be honest.
you know, a lot of people just glossed over and said, oh, we're the happiest couple who ever
Right.
came down the pike and our children perfect and blah, 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 blah. But y'all got in there and gave relatable things.
We talked about going to therapy, going to couples therapy. That that helps us sometimes in dealing with things. And people said to me, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you sort of took the lid off of this thing." But if you're going to talk about it, I think the whole idea was we wanted people to know that we're real folks who are struggling just like you are.
And you talked about your son and
Having some learning disabilities.
having some learning disabilities and how you're coping with those and
Right.
how well he is doing.
Right.
And again, that's something people need to hear.
Exactly.
There's a whole audience out there.
Right. Well, we thought that we could also help people because a lot of times people don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the struggles and the imperfection in family life. And I encouraged Al. I said, "Do you mind? I mean, can we just go there?" And of course, he'll go there at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I mean, we just did a piece on his occupational therapist. It's everybody's. I think people think that when you're on TV you have this perfect life, and look, we're very blessed. We have a wonderful life. We get to do great things. We this summer going to Rio for the Olympics. I've gotten to go
Be
places. Yeah, I've gotten to go places. I took Leela and I last year went to Abu Dhabi, and I saw the Middle East. So we have a wonderful life. That's very blessed. But it's like everybody else.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. You struggle. You've got your issues and your challenges, and
we get on each other's nerves. I mean, we have to get through it too, like everybody else, right? Like a couple.
so it's
I've always known how you met, and I've read that story. But when did you know he was the one?
She still doesn't.
You'll get back. You'll get back to me on that.
I'm going to get back to you. 20 years of marriage. I'm still thinking about it. It was a while. We had known each other as friends at the network for a while, and Al was probably a little more interested in me for a period of time than I was him. I think there was Al always tells this story, and it probably is true. I had gone to Barcelona, Spain, to cover the Olympics, and I had asked Al, just as a friend, would you mind peeking in on my apartment and check my plants and water them and that kind of thing, because I was going to be gone for a couple of weeks. And when I came back, not only had he taken care of the house, but he left me a bouquet of flowers, and he had stocked some things in the refrigerator.
Some things. There's nothing. She was a typical New York single woman. I went in, and most guys would probably go check out the bedroom. I checked out the kitchen, and there was literally nothing in the pantry. Other than like a couple of some canned goods. No, but there were no perishable. There were no non-perishables.
The oven had
like most people. The oven still had cardboard on the racks.
I didn't cook.
I looked at this. I said, she may as well store sweaters in here. And the fridge had like a bottle of Grey Poupon and a bottle of champagne, and that was it. So I thought, how do you live? I mean, this is... So I stocked the refrigerator in the pantry and left some flowers. And I asked her, we got a date.
That is romantic.
That was pretty romantic.
That is pretty romantic.
He's a romantic guy. People just think he's funny, and he is funny. But he's a very sensitive guy. Do you know he got me an original book of Shakespeare and sonnets for one of my birthdays? Oh, yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Yeah. So
he's a keeper.
He's a keeper. So eventually,
I thought it said Will Will Arnett. And then I thought, oh wow, I didn't know he wrote a book. That's fantastic.
That's
Wow.
unlocked,
Oh, this
yeah.
isn't it.
No, but anyway, so I visually thought, this is really a good guy. He's a sweet, caring, loving, good guy. And at the end of the day, who do you want in your life after 20, 30 years? A sweet, caring, loving guy.
And as I told Deborah, I said, look, the good news, if you look at it this way, most of your friends marry these good-looking guys. You know, in 20, 30 years, their looks are gone. You know, they fall apart. It's a mess.
It's
You
the
know,
inner core that stays there.
No, I went the other way.
You're better and better.
I looked horrible in the beginning, and now I'm not so bad. You know, it's like she got a fixer-upper.
Stick with me, Deborah.
Put some drapes
The best
over
is
here.
yet to be.
Do a
Yeah.
little upholstery over here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've kind of come equal with Matt Lauer. You know? He started here, I started here. Now we're kind of like this.
There you are.
There you go.
are. But now you're doing the Weather Channel, you're doing the Today Show. I mean, you're doing all kind of reports and traveling. And what career-wise is there anything you're still looking for?
You know, I think for me, because I do taped reports and I do Good Morning America now and again, which is live, I'd love to do a little more live TV. And I don't know if that might be some kind of a talk show or some kind of a show. Something like that, so that I could, I can be myself, I can put my opinion out there, I can have a little more of this live kind of fun. So I think that might be something.
But you're good at that, in the tape reports that you do, the interviews, the way you elicit responses, etc.
But sometimes there's serious issues,
Yeah.
sometimes there's sad issues when I'm working for 2020. I'd love to do some things where I can do a balance of both, but a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
What about you, Al? Is there any mountain left to climb?
The great thing is I don't. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, that's the fun part about it. You don't know what's going to come around the pike. I mean, look, I never planned to do this. I was going to be a producer or a writer. I didn't want to be on TV, but a college professor put me up for a job when I was a sophomore to do weekend weather, and I thought I'll just do this until a real job comes along. So I don't know what's still out there.
Don't you? Isn't it fun? I mean, not that I'm older than y'all, but not that we're all that old. But when you look back and you see how this led to this, led to this, led to this, that's just what amazes me in looking back. Is if I hadn't gone to this place at this time, all of this wouldn't have happened.
That's exactly
and
right.
whatever that professor,
Sure.
if he hadn't, or whatever.
Or if I hadn't taken that job in Orlando, Florida, but I had gone to Houston, Texas instead because I had an offer for 2 different jobs, where might that have led me? You're so right. You never know. You make these decisions along the way and you hope they're good decisions, and sometimes they lead to other things, and who knows where it might have taken you, but this worked out pretty well.
How does it feel to come back to Peary, though?
I love it because I'm just so nostalgic. Even though there are places, I never came here when I was a child in Perry, obviously, but it feels like home. I mean, even like the humidity in the air and all of this, it warms something in my heart. I lost my mother a few months
Yes.
ago, and I had lost my dad a few years ago, so my parents aren't the draw here anymore. But I do have a sister who lives here. I have a sister who lives near Atlanta. And when I come home to Georgia, there's just something that just smiles inside of me because this is where it all began.
When y'all go out, when you're here in Perry, do people come up and speak to you, or do they recognize you, or do they kind of stand back? Or
No, they speak.
It's
speak.
mostly people who remember Deborah from here. I mean, or if I've gone into the CVS and, oh, how's Deborah? Is Deborah here? I went to school with her or something.
Well, people will tell me, I saw Deborah last weekend. I saw Deborah last weekend. Yeah, and I'm thinking, I wonder how that works. Do they run up and say, "Oh my gosh"?
Well, Al will get people saying, "What are you doing here? What are you doing in Perry, Georgia?"
Mm-hmm.
So, you get people who come up to you just because they know you from the Today Show, and they may not have known why you were here.
But it's more through you. I mean, people. I'm just like an afterthought.
This is my turf, baby.
Yeah.
My turf.
I always think about what John Kennedy said when he went to Europe, and he said, "I'm the man who accompanied Jackie Kennedy
Yes,
to Europe."
exactly.
I think Al's the man who accompanied Deborah Roberts
That's
to her
right.
hometown.
Exactly. So we're back home today, and thank you for accompanying me.
Oh, thanks.
But then we've got just a few minutes, and we'll go and finish this up. But what has somebody said to you that has been your encouragement? What have your parents said that's something that stuck with you as you've gone through?
Well, I mean, my parents were always very supportive, and my mom always said to me, you're my special girl. You're my special girl, which was always very sweet. And 9 kids, it was a way of making one of her kids feel a little special. But I always say, that Mrs. Dorothy Hardy, my 6th grade English teacher, left such an impact on me because she was very exacting and she was difficult and she was, really insisted on proper grammar and learning poetry and all of this. But she pulled me aside one time and said, "Deborah, you're a real smart girl. You're going to go somewhere." And I just will never forget that. And
you believed her.
And I believed her. And you never know what that one thing is a teacher may or may not say, or somebody else, some other mentor in your life might say that will inspire you, but those words resonated, and as you said, I had the audacity to believe her, and here we are.
Yeah, I think about it when you say that. I remember when I was small, but it's just me and my brother, and my mother would come over at night, and she would whisper in my ear, "You're special, you're so special," and I bought it, and I thought, and I did think, my poor brother. Yeah, and years later, I told him, I said, it must have been so hard on you. I said, because Mother thought I was so special. She told me that every night. He said, she told me the same thing. And I was like, no.
That was for me.
That was for me. What about you, Al? Is anybody...
My dad used to say, look, as long as at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror and you say you've given it your best, that's all I can ask of you. And I've always remembered that. And Willard Scott, who was like a second dad to me, who was my mentor, said, always be yourself, because that's the only thing at the end of the day, they can do whatever, but you are who you are. And that's the thing that they can't take from you.
Well, we are here in Paris, so glad y'all are who you are. Thank you so much for taking this time to talk today.
Happy to be here. I'd find you anywhere to talk.
You're wonderful. You are. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And welcome to Perry.
Thank you.
Well, there's the interview. It was just so much fun. I had a great time. I do want to mention that Deborah told me right after we filmed this interview that she is going to be on the season finale of the TV series Nashville. Nashville is on Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock on ABC. So it should be coming up either later tonight if you're watching it when this interview first aired, or within the next week. So you'll want to make sure that you see that. Again, my thanks to Deborah Roberts and Al Roker for their generosity in taking the time to sit down and talk to me. If you have a question or comment about the interview, send me an email at jkershawcooper@aol.com. I'd love to hear what you think about it. But we will be back again next week. We'll start catching up with the movies that we missed this week, especially Captain America: Civil War. I want to give you my take on that. So we'll have that ready. We'll have maybe some more book reviews to add in, because there's just a ton of good books coming out this summer, and we want to keep you informed of that. But when I'm talking about movies or entertainment, or when I'm getting to sit down with celebrities like Deborah Roberts and Al Roker, the time just flies by. I could talk about this stuff and do this 24 hours a day, but we are restricted by the time that we're allowed on television. But having said all that, I hope that you enjoyed it. But for now, I am out of here.